of us. But Harold, what do you think of all
It's a great
that?
way to talk with people, and I just think
I like the Sean Bryan show for me personally.
Also listen with podcast. It's Danny Barat.
All right. Welcome everybody to the first ever Access 360 podcast. We're breaking ground, making history, doing a thing. Good friend of ours, Peter, used to say, do a thing, and then figure it out along the way. That's what we're doing. This is the Access 360 podcast. We're bringing leaders, ideas, and conversations together so that all can evolve, because we think when people are talking and sharing good things and people are listening and receiving good things, other good things seem to happen. And so today I get to co-host with my good friends Tony and Brian. We've also got our team, Angelica, Julie, and Harold here at the same time, and we'll be bringing everyone in for a conversation. And today's really just about, hey, why do a podcast? Why are we doing this? Why might you do this? Why should we keep doing this? And we'll just ping pong around, popcorn around maybe, and share some ideas for us, for like the Access brand and platform. We just have so many cool things going on and cool people and sound business ideas and some unsound business ideas that we're refining. And I think in a live conversation like this can be really valuable for all involved, whether you're part of the conversation, listening to the conversation, or one way or another involved in what we're talking about. So with that, let's go. Brian, you and I, months ago now, we're like, Brian and I would have conversations, and they would always be great, rich conversations. And I would often reflect and in the moment say, hey, we should record these. Like, why aren't we recording these? Brian, what's going on for you? What's present? What are you coming in with?
Yeah, I mean, we've had some great conversations on and off the air. I think that, it started with business cards a long time ago, and then it moved to websites. And I think now we're in this YouTube, social media content, podcast, and I just think it's just a continuation of that. And if the theme, if what you're talking about resonates, people come in, and I think it's a great way to get content. It's a great way to talk with people, and I just think everyone's doing it in a positive way. I'm not so just like, oh, because everyone's doing it, we should do it. But I think it's like the same thing as like the business card, the website, and now we have this.
Yeah, and maybe that is a good place for us to just introduce ourselves and maybe a little bit about who we are, our background. Brian, you want to share just a little bit about what you're up to in the world, passionate in the world, and then I'll go on to Tony, and I can full circle with me. Go ahead.
Absolutely. My name is Brian May. I am a consultant. I do personal consulting, business consulting. I've been in real estate for almost 20 years. I bought my first house when I was 21, and I'm now 45, which is absurd. And just building a lot of clients. And now that I'm back in New York, I was living in Florida for 5 years. Now I'm back in New York and getting my real estate going again. And it's been this is like my second month, and I'm finally feeling like things are happening now.
Amazing. And you're doing some good stuff with men and coaching and consulting as well. Is that also still a focus for you?
Oh yeah, definitely. Usually I mix the business with the personal, and a lot of times I'm dealing with people that either went through a tragedy, a breakup, a divorce, and those things are negatively affecting their business. That's usually what's happening. And I feel like I just read an article that New York is the worst place to date in the country. And I feel like, there's more people breaking up than getting together. And I saw I love memes. And David, you know this. I'm addicted to memes. And
Yeah.
I saw a great meme, and it was like, I'll go out with you, I'll sleep with you, I'll eat with you, and just listed 10 things that I'll do with you, but I won't post you on social media. And I think that is pretty much sums up the dating world right now. I will do everything with you except for post about you on social media. So it's very interesting.
Amazing. That's one thing you always say to me is like amazing. Like and I think that's like a almost I don't know if it's a tagline, but it's like
Yes.
that's what you represent is amazing. What are you most excited about in the world or your life, or like what's like if you're like I'm excited about this, what are you excited about?
So I'm working on a few real estate partnerships slash deals that I'm very excited about, and probably in the next, I'm gonna guess in the next 10 days, I'll probably start announcing some of that. And then as far as the coaching and consulting, I've gotten very big into Kabbalah. I love it. I've gotten very big into hypnosis. I love it. And so just really helping people on all levels. And a lot of it is about your nervous system. A lot of it is about past traumas. And listen, everyone's trauma is different. Some people have crazy traumas, and some people just maybe they didn't know the answer and the teacher picked on them and everyone laughed at them for a second. And so we have these self-limiting beliefs. And listen, yesterday is really just a picture. We just have this memory of a picture. Tomorrow isn't even there. And we just need to concentrate on right now and what we can do now to move our business, our life, and really our relationships in all manner forward.
But now I'm going to go to my man Tony, who I've had the privilege. I think I don't know how many months now we've had the privilege of working in tandem on a number of different things. We've talked everything from our faith to business to just life, and I've had the privilege of getting a lot of his, I'd say, sage wisdom on all angles of that. And he's been doing some cool stuff with the staffing business and writing books and all kinds of stuff. But Tony, how are you doing today? What are you coming in with?
Okay, so I'm Tony Ajar, and I come from a background of sales and sales training. Did a lot of training throughout the region of Las Vegas. Then I got into managing, was running hotels, the Hiltons specifically, as well as multiple fine dining restaurants. And now I'm with David at Access Virtual Staffing, helping out there and consulting. I've done business consultation as well, and was really enjoyed it. I loved helping people. I loved people, especially in my latter years. My earlier years was more about money and what I deemed to be successful, but it was missing the character aspect of it. So to be able to have that aspect with success is really, really good. As far as something that I'm excited about is the ground floor of helping others. And really, that's what podcast is. I heard somebody once say that podcasting is kind of like a digital campfire. So back in the day, they kind of gathered around to share stories and kind of bring their culture together with other cultures. And nowadays it's kind of on the digital platform, which is really, really good. I mean, as of now, I think they said that's like, I don't know, 464 million people are now listening to podcasts. And just from a business perspective, they say 62% of weekly podcast listeners say they've actually considered a new product or a service just by listening in on the product and the podcast itself. So to be able to kind of have growth in that sense, you look at the percentages, even a higher percentage says they actually gain something out of it, whether that's wisdom, whether that's leadership development, coaching, or even business aspect or life aspect. So it's kind of this broad range of things where, the target may be one thing that the podcast may have, and you get this audience that has taken multiple things out of it outside of their intended target, basically. So I find that to be really good. I'm excited for that, excited for our business and the organic growth of it, and excited to see where this goes and who we can help as well as each other.
That's it. We're on like the new frontier here, scratching and clawing and figuring it out. Maybe as we and Tony, just an acknowledgement, if you wouldn't mind. One of the things that you've struck me with is I'm gonna say like an embodiment of grace in the space with people and how you approach life. Like there's like I've been learning from you, and I think that's part of why we have conversations and why we have relationships, and why, as you said, like we gather around a campfire to learn from each other. So that's just one thing that in the moment here I just wanted to acknowledge you for, because I've gotten a lot of just I've experienced how you provide grace to people in conversations and relationships, and it softened me a little bit, because sometimes I think I could be a little bit harsher and more cutting, and I don't always want to be, but you've been a demonstration of that, so thank you.
And one of the things kind of like Brian was hitting on is the different types of brokenness that everybody has. So when I was coming out of a section where there was a lot of high pride and arrogance and things like that, and I was gracefully saved and my mind was renewed, I was able to see the grace that I needed and being able to pass that on. And what I realized after a while is I always thought of people being like a 2-year-old crying on the inside. Some people kind of escaped, whether that's drugs, maybe it's women and sexuality, whatever. Sometimes it's alcohol, but everybody was gravitating towards something. I always felt like if I could just touch that person with my words or the compassion or the grace, maybe it would just bring that, maybe just even one day of them having a little bit of peace in their heart. And so I kind of just took that everywhere, and I seen it work in my life. I seen that, by giving grace, it actually motivated people to do better. I noticed this when I was working with youth. It's like usually they got the big hand brought down and the yelling and the cussing and everything else. And I saw this in the restaurant business. A lot of restaurants, usually you have an overbearing leader, and next thing you know, what do you get? You get compliant followers, you get yes men, and you don't multiply your business. You're not raising up other successful people. And I went in there with the same mentality of grace and look, and I'd pull people aside. I'd still bring correction, but it would be loving correction. I got a staff that pour themselves out for me. And I realized like the power of being like authentic, being graceful and loving. And I always said, a mother doesn't run into a burning house to save her kid out of the law, right? You have to do this, and kind of being overbearing. She does it out of the love of her heart, and love's the greatest motivator, I find.
Yeah. Beautifully said. Beautifully said. All right, let's kind of take a little left turn from the intros, and just the topic of today is really like, why podcast? Why are we launching a podcast? Why would anybody think about doing a podcast? What's the value of it? And maybe a fun question is, what podcast do you listen to most, or has been most inspiring for you? And so I'll start up the conversation, but as things have been happening with Charlie Kirk and different things, I just didn't know all of who Charlie Kirk was. And I knew of him. I liked some of the things he had said that I had heard, and different elements and different things. And I think over the past couple of weeks, I've had the opportunity to listen to more of his content on all different kinds of directions. And what I also realized was he was doing a podcast every day for like hours a day, talking about current events, talking about politics, talking about different kinds of wisdom, talking about his faith. Like, it was like, oh, okay, like he's doing it every day. And then another podcast that I love is PBD podcast, Patrick Bet David. And as I was tuning into that, I realized they're actually doing a podcast every day on current events, on business topics, on things that are important to people. And they're also inviting other perspectives into a conversation. I said, hey guys, as I alluded to earlier with Brian, it's like we have these great conversations, and I think it would be valuable for people to be a fly on the wall to those, or maybe we just pump each other's tires a little bit too. But that's a different story. But like, why have a podcast? And so for me, it's, I think, inviting good people and perspectives to an audience, learning from each other. I think there's the mastermind element of the people that participate, but also the people that listen, whether you're on a car ride or elsewhere. So maybe I'll loop it around to you, Brian. Why podcast? And do you have a favorite go-to podcast you're tuning into these days?
So I listen to a lot of podcasts. I don't know if I go through spurts where I'll listen to some over and over again, but there is a great guy, David Guyam. I think it's GhiYam. And I've been listening to him a lot. But it's interesting what Tony said, because he's 100% right. Last night, I couldn't sleep for whatever reason. I started listening to David Asprey, who's a super famous guy, but I very rarely listen to him. He's very technical and very scientific. But he was talking about a supplement, and I ended up buying it at 1 a.m. And Tony was saying, buying products, buying services, things like that. So this was a supplement that I don't know if it works. If it works, I'll definitely share in the next couple of weeks. But look, I think it's about listening to new ideas. It's about listening to experts. And experts is a funny word right now, because everyone is a self-proclaimed expert. And, if we look at politics, if we look at things like that, you could say like, Well, experts can vastly disagree. So you have to find experts that you kind of relate to, that you like. And, I think that finding out about new products, new services, things like that on a meaningful level. And, there's people that you trust more than others. And I think the whole game, authenticity, we always talk about, I'm like the biggest proponent of authenticity, but I also think trust factor. And what I'm seeing in social media on all these things is people that are trustworthy. Those are the people that people are listening to, you know? And I think that when people are doing ads for social media, when they're not getting the right clients, when they're not getting the right buyers, it's usually a trust issue. They're either not in front of them enough, or there's just not enough conviction, or whatever it might be. But when you listen to someone and you trust them, it's just crazy how you will, buy or listen or pick up a book or whatever it might be.
Dare we ask what supplement you bought at 1 a.m.? Any top tips that you might want to recommend?
So it was a nootropic. I don't even know the name except it starts with a B, but he's very big into nootropics. So yeah, I don't know. It sounded interesting. I will definitely, once I get it and I use it for a week, I'll definitely give a full report.
That's what we could do too. I think that's a great point. It's like, we're all experiencing life, walking through life. It's like if you have good friends who are, you trust and you've built authenticity with, and they recommend a movie or they recommend a restaurant or they recommend a nootropic, you're a lot more likely to feel like, I might try that because I value Brian's opinion. And I think that's a lot of, if you listen, whoever your favorite podcaster is, you probably are influenced and say, oh, that's a good idea. I should look into that. I should check that out. So good stuff.
I think with, well, obviously Chat GPT, of course. I don't even think anyone Googles anything anymore. But I always find it interesting.
You want a good fact?
Yeah.
I heard it from our friend Peter Swain, and he was doing his AI mastermind the other day, and he said, I forget what the time frame was. It might have been a year. A year ago, it was a 200. I'm getting the numbers wrong, but you'll get the ballpark of it. It was a 247 to 1 Google search to Chat GPT ratio. Does anybody, what do you think the ratio is now, Ryan? While we're at it, what do you think? Like, how many Google searches to Chat GPT searches currently?
I have no idea, but I will say that Max, my 6-year-old son, even uses Chat GPT now. So it's got to be up there.
It went from 247 to 1 to 5 to 1. So every 5
Wow.
Google searches, it has 1 GPT search. So, and that's just continuing to shift in terms of ratio and balance of power. So it's wild what's happening in the multiverse.
I love that. I love that. And I was just going to say, do you use Reddit?
No, but I see things on Reddit all the time or references to it. Yeah. Do you?
I love Reddit. And what I find amazing about Reddit is the idea is that everyone could just say whatever they want. Obviously, if it's not appropriate, they ban it and they kick you out, whatever it might be. But what I love about it is you have a bunch of random people talking about something. And obviously I was talking about this supplement that I bought. So I first was listening to the podcast. Then I went to Chat GPT. Next thing you know, I'm on Reddit. And what I like about it is it's so free that everyone could say what you want, that I actually believe the people even more. And it's so niche, like now I'm in a forum talking about a random supplement. So it's like, if someone's going to come a bot or whatever, it's people call it out. First of all, like if you're a bot or you're like purposely pushing something, people know. And I just find it's the most, even though it's the most Wild West, it's also the most trustworthy source that I've ever seen. I love it.
Yeah. I think I heard it. Well, actually, we had a speaker on Wednesday morning, and he at some point had, so Amazing Grace, the song Amazing Grace, he was a cop, and he was actually coaching an ice hockey team, but he's of faith, and he goes into his church library and he like takes his finger and stops on a book that was the story of, I'm forgetting his name now, Newton, I think it is, who was a slave trader back in the day and had an experience on a ship that was supposed to go down, and he pled to God to save him. And that's where Amazing Grace came out of. But this guy, after reading the book, said, I need to make a Broadway musical. But why I'm saying this now is because he said a year from now, certainly 5 years from now, you're not going to be able to tell the difference between a movie that was made by AI or an actual movie with actors in it. He said where you will be able to tell that difference is in live performances. And when you're with people, you have a different experience. And like people, I think there's going to be this trying to sort out, like, how do we still be humans and have a human experience when there's so much technology and so much AI going around? So let's get around the horn here. Tony, back to the, I guess, initiating question. You know, why podcasts, and do you have a favorite podcast that you're tuning into?
So I'll do the favorite first and then get into the why behind it. But I like the Sean Ryan show. I'm also a PBD fan. I really like the different voices on PBD. I like the structure behind it. I like that they invite everybody. Whether or not they accept the invite is a different story, but they always try to, across the field, bring people in. I like the Sean Ryan show for me personally. Sometimes it can get a little goofy when they have people on there, but at least it's people coming with their experiences and things like that. But to kind of get the deeper aspect of military and leadership, because let me tell you, when you get into the deep ends of military, it's all about leadership. It's all about how they taken care of one another. It's all about how they were equipped, so you kind of get to see the broadness of that happening, which is really when I would get into the why behind podcasting, it's that very thing. It's visibility, right? How are we being visible to others? But what's the power behind visibility? Well, it's relationship, right? And I remember Steve Jobs once said the most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. And so think of Apple's launches. People didn't just buy technology. They bought into a story of thinking differently, because that's what he was always doing. And podcasting, I think, is creating that same effect, not just a company, but a movement where people come to be equipped, inspired, and transformed. Because anybody that's coming to a podcast is actually trying to get those things. They're trying to be more equipped. They're trying to be inspired. They're trying to learn something new. Even if they're going up against something that's being talked, maybe it's a political thing, but they may not like it, but they're still going there. They want to hear what's there on the other side. And, I think it's phenomenal. The one thing I would say is, for visibility for business, again, it's creating relationships. So every guest is a future client. Every guest is a potential referral partner. It's a brand evangelist. So from that aspect, I think podcasts are needed by far. I remember Neil Gaiman, he's an author, but he was speaking about the Moth, which is basically a storytelling fellowship and competition. It's across the
I've done it. I almost won one time. Yeah.
No way. So and I can't remember what he said. Let me think if I can think of it. Oh, I know what it was. He said, the moth is like walking through the fire and being embraced and loved. And I love that, because that's kind of what podcast is. So even though you're trying to put your brand out there, even though you're trying to maybe get future sales, maybe you're trying talking engagements, but at the end of the day, whenever you're talking in the midst of the people or being a guest on one of the shows, it's kind of like being put in the fire, because you do have different ideas that are bouncing back and forth. And some people are shy. Some people are like, is what I have to say relevant? And I find that usually in a show, no matter where a person stands, everything's relevant. It's relevant to somebody that's out there listening. And so I loved how he said, they're loved and embraced. And that's kind of, when you look at all the successful podcasts, whether they have 4 on their list, or 3, or even 2, one person talking, the other one talking with them, you always find this camaraderie. You always see this grace. You always see the back and forth of ideas or questions. And so that's the thing too, I think, that benefits people. It's actually putting themselves out there to actually learn and be able to put their brand out there as well. So I think you're building relationship, you're becoming visible, and those two things ultimately lead to the multiplication, not only of ideas, but of a business, of a community.
Brilliant.
Tony, do you listen to Jocko?
Jocko Willink, I have a few times, not necessarily his podcast, but I liked his books. And when I do,
you got to listen to his podcast. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love everything you just said. As soon as you were talking, I wrote. I have David knows I have to write notes, and I love Jocko. I think he's the best.
I think he's great. I've seen him in his talk, like TED Talks and stuff, and he's wonderful. You know, the accountability one is great. You know, take ownership, and I taught that to my youth. You know, if you don't start there in anything you do, you're never going to be successful. You know, you really got to look inward. You know, even when it's not maybe fully 100% that person's fault, you can always look inside to see how you could have helped or helped somebody else to be able to be successful and succeed at what they're doing. So yeah, I love that. I love reading about him. The few things I have seen on him, I loved, and I'll definitely
You
check out that.
gotta, I'll try to send it to you, but I'm sure it's easily if you Google it. He has someone from Top Gun on his show and he interviews him. And I think that he helped Tom Cruise with the new Top Gun, which is by far my
Nice.
favorite movie of all time. I'm the biggest Tom Cruise fan of all time.
Yeah, he's great.
And so that's a great one to start with because that was a great interview. And if you love Top Gun, it just blows it out of the park. Yeah.
Tom Cruise, he's one of the best storytellers probably on the face of the planet. I'm actually going to do a YouTube video. Maybe we can bring it into here, but on the new movie, The Mission Impossible, there's so much of
yes.
perfect storytelling that people don't even realize, from, you know, what they call markers or stakes to the opening of starting strong. I mean, it's so powerful the way it was done, this last Mission Impossible. It's storytelling, I would say almost perfection. It's really good.
Well, that may be a future topic, is like the power of storytelling. I remember somebody introduced me to the hero's journey, which was written by Joseph Campbell back in the day, but it also said that it inspired Star Wars and a lot of other things. And it's really like the conversation, and that goes back to gathering around the fireplace or the moth. Part of the moth was people used to just gather on people's porches at the end of the week or the end of the day and tell stories. And sometimes we lose that, but that's also where we gather a lot of our culture. And that's how culture was passed down in families and groups and governments and all these things. So I think in some ways it's like a lost art because people are not communicating as much, not great at practicing or even trying to tell a story. And so with that, we're going to start to wind down, because we did say this one would be a little shorter, but one, if you want to be a guest on this podcast, I forgot to announce it, you need to be a middle-aged white guy with a collared shirt, a short beard, and a short hair. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I just realized our three people here that were leading this conversation just happened to fit that profile. But I want to go to our team, because I'm in West Palm Beach, Florida, actually Riviera Beach. Brian's in New York. Tony is in Uganda, but we've got three incredible people here. If they are available, I see Julie. Julie, I'm going to ask you, because Julie's actually helped with podcasts before and probably has some podcasts she likes to follow as well. So Julie, what would you say? Like, what do you think about podcasting? Do you have one you're listening to? What would you bring to this conversation?
Yeah, actually here in the Philippines, there is a lot of podcasters. So I usually listen to Spotify, if you guys know that one. So as well as in YouTube. But right now, just wanted to let you know that I will be graduating for my master's in human resource and psychology. So basically, what I love to listen with podcasts, it's Danny Barreto. So it's more like it's like talking about real life issues right now, relationships, government, personal growth. Charlie Kirk, actually, she had a topic with that one. And when it comes to a Christian business startup, this also reminds me that work is not just about profit, but about purpose. So that's why I love also working here at AVS, and how they actually treat people with their virtual assistant and something like that, and how we able to build relationship as well. So that actually really helped me a lot while listening to podcasts. It always reminds me of the business right now, because I really see myself here working 5-10 years, something like that. So yeah, so if in case you got if you want a help when it comes to topics about podcasts, I'll be more than happy to help you guys. So I think that's it.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Julie. And we had a team meeting, just for anyone listening in, earlier today. And I think that was one of the beautiful things you shared then, Julie, is like how do we align our purpose in this world with the work that we're doing, and does that align? And I think that's an important reflection for all of us as we go forward. Like, are we doing the stuff we love to do with purpose and passion? And If not, we might want to figure out how we can do that, and not only build and earn and grow, but do the things we love to do as well. Harold, are you available, my friend? Harold's like our expert video editor on the team. He's also helping with our YouTube build out. Harold, what would you say about podcasting, this conversation? Do you have one you listen to? What do you got for us, my friend?
So yeah, I don't have any what you call this so one podcast that I've listened, but I've listened a lot and watch them in YouTube as well. It will be different kind of niche, especially in Filipino. So I just having time, to pass my time to listen about, especially in the editing side, because it also they also have a podcast channel for the editing side in the YouTube as well. But yeah, for the podcast, we really need this for, especially in our company in ABS, because we can also use this as our one means in our marketing. We can invite people and discuss all about ABS. We can use this as our marketing to generate leads as well. So I'm looking forward and I'm excited also to who will be our next guest if we will be having a celebrity guest in the future. Yeah, I'm excited to edit the clips and watch this.
Well, soon we'll be asking Joe Rogan to come on, because that's where we're going here. We'll see. We'll see. But no, I mean, it's another good point. It's a way that, if anybody is listening to this and wants to join for the conversation, we're going to have different topics. We want different leaders to come into the mix here, and that's part of what we're doing. Angelica, I don't know if you're available. If you are, would love to hear your voice. Otherwise, we're going to start to wrap this up. But if you are there, Angelica, and you want to share about this. Otherwise, we'll start to wind down this particular. There you are, Angelica. What are you thinking about this whole conversation, podcasting? What's on your mind?
Yes, hello guys. Actually, this is good. I also heard some of the podcasts in Spotify. One of the famous author and business um uh, uh yeah, business owner here in the Philippines. His name is Ching Tan. It's more about talking about business, how to motivate some, beginner in the industry, because lots of business owners nowadays, especially here in the Philippines, if there's a trending, they do it, and then if they failed, they already gave up. So that is one of the tips that he's doing, that if you are going to try starting business, you need to be a risk taker. So actually this podcast is really good, not just for our company, but for all of the business brands. Either you're just starting or you already been um build of the of your brand, or your business, because it's how we can build trust, or show trust for credibility to our targeted niche, and then target clients. So since nowadays a lot of people is now in social medias, either in Facebook or YouTube, so it's more we can target lots of people, not just consumer, but also future clients of the business that you're going to offer. So yeah, I think that's all. Thank you.
Brilliant, Angelica. Thank you. Angelica helps us on a number of different levels right now in terms of social media marketing and just general design for marketing things, and also is helping with a lot of like landing pages and go high level. And we'll get into a lot of those topics as we go deeper on some of the content that we'll get into on Access 360. So I'm going to start to wrap it up. I'll take a final comment from Brian and Tony, and then we'll just usher off into the rest of this day, and we'll get ready for the next episode. So I think my closing comment is job well done, team. Glad we kicked this off, and that's my recommendation to anyone. I think what I'm feeling more called to do is be more vocal and to have my voice heard, not as like ego, but as there's valuable stuff, I think, inside of each of us. And I have these conversations with people all the time. There's expertise that's out there that you probably have inside of you. And so why podcast? Why do something like this? I think because we've all got something valuable to offer this world. And I think also I'm just, current times, I think we need more voices that are coming from love and positivity and connection and like building things and building and bridging gaps rather than a lot of the division that's out there. So that's also something I'm passionate about, is having more voices that are going to build and bridge and collaborate rather than divide. And there's a lot of other topics we'll get into, but I'll go to, I think, Ryan, keeping the order the same. Brian, what do you got? What are your closing comments here?
I think this is great. I had a lot of fun. I feel that a lot of people that I work with, that I talk to, I always say this comment: it's you versus you. And most of the time there's not some third party that's keeping you down. Most of the time it's just you versus you. And I love just breaking the shell and giving people more confidence, because I think that a lot of people, they think they're not confident, but they're actually confident that they're not confident. So if we could just figure out what's going on here and in the mental of you versus you and break that bad psychology, I mean, it just opens up a new light for them. And I love that.
That's a great comment. Like I'm so confident that I'm unconfident. Sometimes it sounds crazy, but that's actually the truth. I'm more willing to fight for my fear than I'm willing to fight for my courage, so to speak. That's a great point, Brian.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Tony, what do you got? We're wrapping up here. This is our first little dip into the pool.
That must be better right there. So, I think of podcasting as building a global platform where the right voices meet the right ideas, and leaders and people find strategies that can change the trajectory of their business or even their life. And so, the way I always thought is, if you want to build an authority, stop only being a consumer of conversations. I think me and David talked about this. Like, we're so apt to just take a lot of information in. This is why those the course things like Udemy, this is why they're all so successful, because people keep putting in here, but then you never see the application. And so I think that the biggest thing about this is not only having the platform, but making sure that you're applying things. Because at the end of the day, the microphone, or in the podcast world, it's the new megaphone of influence. So we don't just want to be able to receive that influence, but we want to be able to help it to influence others. And I think that's very important to remember. So that's last thing I'll kind of leave is remembering those things. And also my professor, he told me not that long ago, and he's a business guy, and he said, get a podcast right away, get on YouTube like right away, because the way AI is taken over, he has his own like pure avatar that you wouldn't even know the difference, that can speak every language, and it's so good that you wouldn't even know it's not even real. And he said, but if you get out there and you're putting your face, you're putting your ideas, people are going to have that familiarity, and they're going to want to see you. So it doesn't matter what technology is happening around you. You can actually utilize and leverage those things and still be the authentic person that people are actually wanting to see, especially if it's a team like this.
Love it. Thank you, Tony. I think, knowledge, you said something at the beginning of your remarks. I heard it this way: knowledge is not power, knowledge is potential power. So it's like, what are you going to do with the thing? And I did a video about this earlier today. Like, something's been revealed to you newly, and you're like, oh, that's awesome, I should do that. But do you actually do it? Do you take an action? So, if you're inspired by anything that happened here today, what's an action or a thing that you can do in your life? And I think that's part of what this is. Like, I think it's great to have ideas. I also always reinforce with anyone I'm talking to, don't leave the scene of a breakthrough. I think Tony Robbins says this sometimes. Don't leave the scene of a breakthrough without actually like taking an action or putting something in place or moving something forward. So we are Access 360, 360 degrees. We'll probably figure out our tagline and some other closing comments, but we are leaders with ideas, having conversations and looking to rise and evolve together. Maybe that is it. All right, everyone, have a beautiful and blessed day.